Okay. Okay, let's wait lah.
Okay.
Yay! It's live. Hello,
Okay.
parents. This is Coach John here from Learning Out of the Box, and I'm doing our webinar from home. Yeah, so my apologies if you can hear any kids screaming at the background. Okay, hello, parents. Today we have the privilege of having a good friend of mine, and her name is Kelle. Hello, Kelle.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, parents.
Yes, and I actually paused for a while because I remember that you told me that your name is not Kelle, which most of your friends mispronounce it. So, being a professional interviewer, or I think I am, I better pronounce the name correctly. Kelle,
Yes,
right?
that's perfect. That's perfect.
Kelle.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so before you share, because I know that today you are going to share quite a lot about primary school science, yeah? So today,
Correct.
Kelle is going to share with us how can we empower our children to unleash their potential in primary school science. And profile of Kelle is she has been in this education for science for the past 15 years, and she's the founder of Summit Education Hub. All right, so before I pass the time to you, and then it's all yours, and then I can go off. Yeah, parents, thanks for being here. And I know that some of you just came back from work. So if you're around, do like the post or just say hi. I mean, we would love to know that we are talking and sharing this valuable info with parents like you. And it gets more interesting if it's two ways, yeah? So if any question, just post in the comment box and I will paste it into the Zoom chat for Kelle to answer along the way, yeah? Okay, all right. Okay, so Kelle, would you be able to share with us, like, okay, how you ended up doing science? Because I understand that you didn't start off doing science, I mean, as your first career. Yes.
Correct. So I was an engineering graduate, actually. So science was my background, but I didn't start off in education, but I was doing, the very first time I did tuition was when I was in the university. You know, I think a lot of uni undergrads did that, right? So we just want to get some money. Yeah, then it actually became an interest. So after some time, I realized, hey, actually, it's quite fun and quite satisfying when you get a student to understand something which is difficult for the student. So gradually from there, I started to do private tuition. Then from there, I took a break in the middle to do something which is unrelated to education. And then I joined back the education field again. So yeah, I mean, that I am. So after which I just focused on science because I think science is one of the kind of sometimes forgotten subject. Yes, because a lot of parents will focus on languages and math, but science is something, because it only comes in P3. So sometimes I think it's kind of forgotten in that sense. Yeah, so I focused on that to try to help as many people as possible.
And I also understand that you're a mommy as well with two kids.
Yes.
How old are your kids?
I have a 3-year-old, both girls.
3-year-old.
Yes, 3-year-old and 7 this year. So she just went into P1. So it's like we just crossed the 2 weeks, right? Yeah, 2 weeks survival camp.
And it feels good, like in a sense, like that when they are not at home. I mean, sometimes
Yes,
I feel that
honestly,
I do my work.
let's be honest, it does.
I mean, our parents, please do not misunderstand. I mean, we still love our kids, but sometimes when they are not at home, we can do our things. Do you agree? If you agree, just post a yes. I mean, it's okay. Yeah.
It's we need sometimes some me time, especially at the start of the day, just to collect our thoughts and all that.
Great. Yeah. So okay, because when I'm now interviewing you, I think I'm also asking as a parent who teach my children science as well. I mean, it's not easy. Yeah. So when a child first comes to you, so what are some of your techniques, or what are some of the things that you will first do to get the child to start on this science learning journey with you?
Well, it depends on when they come to me, actually. So I think it's important to recognize that at different stages, the child actually needs a different kind of approach.
Wow.
So let's say they come to me in P3, for example, then you have to be really a friend to them. You have to be like really fun. You have to give them a lot of stories, a lot of experiments, hands-on, because to them, what is science? They have no idea what science, but they do know what's happening around them. So you try to get some examples from what's happening around them to relate it back to science. Yeah, that's for like if they are young, P3, P4. But if it's like P5, P6, you've got to be a bit more serious. But at the same time, of course, you still have to be fun. Yeah, so you have to strike a good balance between being serious and being fun. Then you have to talk to them, make them understand that it's important to do well in this subject, and why is it important? It brings them to the next stage of their lives, that kind of things. Yeah, so I think depending on what age, this is how I will approach my students.
Great. And I understand that you have some slides prepared for us. So
yes, I do.
To share with us now.
Okay, sure.
Okay, parents, if you're still around, drop us a hi or like the post. I mean, to show that you are here. Yeah, so if you have any question when it comes to teaching your child primary school science, especially that nowadays, I think there's less CA1, but it's still something like a weighted assessment.
Correct. Okay, so yes, so today my focus is to be talking about empowering your child to unleash their potential in science. So the main thing is not just about grades, I feel. So it's about helping them to like it, helping them to understand how to approach it without having to spoon feed them. I think that's the most important thing, not to be spoon fed. Because once you teach them to fish, they can fish for their whole life. So for that, I think it's very important. So I'm going to start off by different stages. So let's say before P3. Before P3 is pretty vague. It can be from when they are toddlers, actually, to just before P3. So like, for example, myself, when my eldest is 7 this year, right? So actually when she was like really young, when she was a toddler, when I was playing with her with like water, her toys and all that, I would actually try to explain a little bit in terms of science. Like, for example, if you put a container inside water, you see bubbles coming out.
Yep.
Why is that so? So like, because water actually enters to push the air inside the container out. So it becomes bubbles that comes out. Of course, I don't use the word like displays or the big words and all that, of course, because back then she wouldn't understand anything. Yeah, but at least it kind of opened up the conversation. So we can link it back next time. Like, you remember when you played with this one last time? This is how it works. And this is the scientific explanation behind it. Yeah, so maybe when she's in P4 dealing with matter as a topic, then we can bring this in again. So I think building up the interest is actually very important from day one. It can be day-to-day activities, such as you can actually purposely get some experimental kits. And nowadays, I think a lot of people sell the experimental kits, right? So actually you can get that, you can actually play with them, take it as playtime. So while playing, you learn something. Or it can be something like going out to nature. You see something, you see a bird, you see a caterpillar, then you can talk about life cycles. Yeah, so I think all these things will add up and eventually it will create an impact on them, which makes them, it's just in them already. It's not something that they have to learn next time because they were just, is already in their memory, and is a very nice memory because you're doing something fun. So I think that's important. And as I mentioned, the next point is hands-on, right? So it's good to be very hands-on with your kids, of course. So maybe when you buy them the experimental kit, at least try with them, not just to throw it to them and let them do it themselves first. Maybe try a little bit with them, explain a bit before you actually let them perform the experiment themselves. So I think that one is something we can do when they are very young. And maybe just before P3, get more involved in terms of the academic side. Yeah, so maybe you can read their textbooks. I gotta say, I think not many parents actually read the students, their kids' work from school, like textbooks, not just science, but I'm pretty sure other subjects as well. Yeah, so I think it's something which is, it can be done. So after you read the textbook, at least you understand what they need to know. Because I do have some friends, they are they are professionals, they are engineers, they are scientists actually, you know. So, but they tell me they cannot teach their kids because they don't know what is involved in the curriculum. Yeah, so when they teach the kids, then the kids will be like, huh, why is it so complicated? When actually primary school science is actually not that complicated. Yeah, so I think this is something which parents need to understand. Like they only learn until a certain point because anything else on top of that might be too complicated for them already. And at the same time, you can actually even try to attempt some of the questions as well, because the way we answer as an adult compared to the way that the students are expected to answer is actually very different as well. So if you're able to attempt the questions, you're putting yourself in their shoes. So I think that helps to make you understand how they feel next time when you're teaching them. So it makes, I think it makes it easier in that sense because you're relating to them. So that is before P3. And
probably I can just add in also my experience. I mean, and my middle child is P3 this year. Yeah, I got a bit mixed up. Yeah, is it last year or this year? Okay, she's P3 this year. Yeah, it's only January.
Okay.
Yeah, so how she got to learn science is she didn't start off with any textbook. She started to plant her papaya plants. I mean, she just threw the seeds into the pot of soil, and now she has some plants growing out, and she's very excited. Yeah, at the same time, I got some friends who told me that, well, I may not know a lot about science, but I do let them watch the Netflix documentary shows, like maybe half an hour on alternate days, yeah, so that they can actually get to learn something that's outside of their book. And I think this works if, let's say, a parent finds that she or he simply has no time for the child, but doesn't mind sitting next to them and just watch together. But so I think the key point here is not to teach your child as a whole, but to learn together with your child using whatever way that works for the family.
True. And we'll move on to between P5 and P6. So this is when it starts to get more serious, as I mentioned, because the following year would be their PSLE, right? So for me, I think it's very important at the start of the year for P5, actually, you can start in P5 already, that you need to actually sit down with your child and set an aim. So actually, almost every year, I'll ask my P6, what is your aim? I'll ask them at the start of the year, what is your aim? How are you going to accomplish this aim? So when I say aim, maybe it's like, it doesn't really mean that you must tell me, oh, how many scores, how many points you want to get, how many marks you want to get. Like now, this year onwards is AL, right? So it's not like, oh, you must tell me you must aim for AL, whatever. It's more of knowing where the child actually wants to, maybe even can talk about which school they want to go to, or what they want to go, what they want to do in the future, and you can map out the path for them in that sense. And I think it's important to know your child, to understand what your child is capable of, because sometimes we might set a bit unreasonable expectations on our child, and our child will be pretty overwhelmed. Yes, and I think very important one point is also to involve your child, because I have a few students. I mean, over the years, I have some students when I ask them, oh, where are you going? Where do you want to go? So they will tell me so and so. Then I'm like, oh, okay, it's a good school, blah, blah, blah. Then they say, oh, because my mommy wants me to go to that school. Then I'm like, but do you know about the school? Do you want to go to the school? Then they're not very sure, you see. So I think it's important to involve your child in the discussion, because when they have the owners, they will feel much more motivated to do it. If you see the trend of students doing really well, a lot of times it's because they are self-motivated. So they know what they want because they are involved in the discussion. And it's good that they do that, because they really will work really hard towards their aim, to fulfill their aim.
So one quick question, because I also get that a lot of the time. Some parents say that, hey, actually, I tried my best. I tried almost everything, but my child is simply not motivated to study. So how do you address that?
Okay. I do have a few cases like that as well. So some of them actually came to me only P6. So, it's really a short runway, right, to the PSLE. But what I feel work is that if your child is already blocking you off, it's good to involve a third party. So in this case, the third party is me. So I will talk to the child as a friend to make them understand that, your mommy is not against you. Nobody is against you. We are trying to help you. And I'll tell them my own story as well, like how I come to this and all that, what I did when I was younger. So from doing that and constantly encouraging them, actually, you will see that there's a difference. You will see a difference in the child. And when it comes to the PSL, you will see that actually they do put in a lot of effort and they do have a very good improvement in their marks as well. So I think talking to them as a friend is very important. But sometimes as parents, we cannot just, because we are already a parent, so sometimes our child just see us as a parent already. And it's good to get someone else involved, I feel.
Yeah, which is, I think there's a saying that the best counselor cannot counsel their own kids, because when the counselor counsel their own kids, they'll see that as their kids, not as a client.
Yeah. Agree. So like how usually when parents teach our own kids, we get more frustrated, right? More easily.
Yes.
Compared to when we're teaching other kids. Yeah. I think it's very common. Yeah. So it's good to get someone else involved. Yeah. And okay, so we can move on to like say, what can we do during regular days just to share how we can help them in their revision, how we can help them to plan it out. And note that I say to share with them and to help them to plan it out with them as well. Because a lot of times, a lot of parents will just write it down for them. And, today you do this, you do this, you do this. But to the child, it's like, it's just a boring timetable that I have to follow. But it's good to talk to the child to understand what the child actually needs in terms of the revision. So maybe he or she feels like, I this few days, I feel these few weeks, I feel that I'm actually lacking confidence in this particular topic. So maybe we should revise this. Yeah. So I think it's good to, basically, we're trying to empower them. So we're trying to make them feel that they're very involved. Yeah. So there's a lot, there needs to be a lot of discussion happening between the parent and the child. Okay, so just to share for regular days revision, what I usually advise is at least 2 weeks weekly on every subject. So like science 2 weeks, math 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 hours, 2 hours per week, okay, for every subject. So when I say 2 hours weekly, right, it doesn't mean like, oh, my child go for 2-hour tuition. That's my 2-hour weekly. Because during tuition, there might be a lot of talking. There might be admin in between. I mean, the child won't like 100% focus for the 2 hours, for example. Yeah, so I think it's outside tuition, outside school. I think it's important to set aside a 2 weeks. It doesn't, 2 weeks, I keep saying 2 weeks, 2 hours, 2 hours. So I think, you don't have to like, oh, today 2 hours, you come back from school, you sit here, do science for 2 hours. Because if the child cannot focus, what's the point? So it's good to spread it out. Like maybe today you do a bit of math and science, tomorrow you do a bit of English and Chinese. So spread it out, and it can be any form of revision. I always tell my kids, can be any form of revision. It can be reading your notes if you feel like your concepts are not very good for this one. Or it can be doing practice paper when you feel like you're not confident in writing. It can even be note-taking in terms of like maybe doing a mind map. Any form of revision will do. Even taking out old school papers that you have done before to redo them one more time, I think that helps as well. Yeah, so basically just any form of revision, as long as it benefits the child. And of course, the last one, I think this is a cliche, but I think it's very true. Consistency is definitely key, because you cannot really wait until, it's just 1 month before the exams, then you start to, okay, this is my timetable. Because by then, I think every parent knows they really have a lot on their plate. By then, it would be too difficult to spread it out evenly. So it's good to start from the very, very start.
Yeah, this is so true, because I also have heard from my students, for those who actually did well for PSLE, in fact, for parents whose child is taking PSLE this year, some of the kids have told me that they started revision last year. Yeah, so they told me that they will rest like one week after the SA2. After that, they will start their revision for PSLE all the way until PSLE.
Yes, actually, John, I also had a few P5 students last year. They actually asked for me to, the parents actually asked for me to maybe draw up a skeleton of the revision timetable for them. So like, because they have 6 weeks of holidays, right, in December. So if they totally switch off, they really switch off. Yeah. So I did actually do it up. Later, okay, I'll share a screen to like briefly show the timetable. So I gave them a skeleton so they can play around with the timing, they can play around with the topics that they want to go through and all that. So I think it's important to maybe for P5s this year, for parents with P5s this year, you can actually start the end of this year already to actually draw a proper revision timetable with your child. Yeah.
Great. So afterwards, you're saying that you'll be sharing.
Yeah, I'll just flash like an example of what a very simple one that I've drawn for my own students.
Great. Okay, maybe just let me take over for a short while. Okay, parents, if you like what Kelle has been sharing for the past half an hour, actually the intention of this Facebook Live is to share with parents who teach our kids, parents who are like us, and we teach our own kids. Yeah. So if you want more parents to benefit from this sharing, anyway, it's live, and this is how we give back to the community. Do click on share so that more of your friends can benefit from this Facebook Live, and eventually you'll never know, it actually helps them to do better for their CA1 and eventually their PSLE. So remember to click on share so that more parents can benefit from what we are doing. Yeah, okay, back to you.
Okay, sure. And okay, this is nearer to exam. So just now, as I mentioned, the revision timetable. Of course, when it's nearer to exams, it's important to make it more detailed without just saying, okay, today we do math, tomorrow you do science. So you have to really look. That's why the knowing your child comes in here. So you have to know your child's strengths and weaknesses in order to help them to do this. Yeah, because I think a lot of parents, it's normal because we're busy with our own work and all that as well. So sometimes we don't talk to them so much to understand what they really need. Yeah, so maybe every day just on and off, like, oh, how do you do for this? How do you do for that? Yeah, so at least you know that they know that you care as well. So when you try to plan it out with them, they trust that you know what you're doing. Because I think a lot of students think, you don't know what I'm doing, you don't know what I'm studying. It's okay, I'll do it myself. Yeah, so I think it's good to in day-to-day life we get ourselves involved in that sense. And yes, this is something which I always share with my students, actually, the redoing of old questions with mistakes during revision. I think this point is very important because it makes your child revisit the mistake and do it again. And if he or she realizes that, hey, I make the same old mistakes again, it means there must be something wrong with the concepts already. So this is actually where you get to understand, hey, this is the part where my child actually needs more help in and needs to go back to basics. I need to go back and look at what I really need to understand. Yeah, because a lot of parents, what they tell me is, oh, my revision is that I give my child more new school papers to do. Then I look at a poor kid, he's very overwhelmed already. Yeah, plus he's just churning, right? So it doesn't really help so much because the mistakes are made over and over again. So what I always tell my students to do, you go and get whatever you have done before with mistakes, you cover, it's just literally cover and rewriting whatever your new answer is. And then you compare it to your corrections to see if it's correct. If it's correct, you move on. If it's wrong, you go and see where you did wrong. Is it a conceptual issue or is it a careless mistakes or whatever it is, rectify that first. Because there's no point in moving on when you make the same old mistakes over and over again. Then
so true.
Sorry, John. Yes, continue.
Because I know that we actually had a chat last year. I think 3 months ago. Is it 3 months ago?
For us, I forgot.
Yeah,
I think December, is it? I forgot. Maybe November, December.
Yeah. I think we actually had a quite a good chat on how are the different ways that kids can benefit from, and it doesn't matter whether is it maths or science or any subjects. Yeah, and I totally agree with what you have said, because I think as even for myself, my own experience told me that sometimes when I told parents, hey, you have to take out your old worksheets, you have to take out your old questions, you got to redo them. But I think the common response from parents is like, huh? Why must take back? Why must take out? I thought you did already, so there's not much of use anymore. Yeah, so I think this is one of the highly misunderstood techniques that is working, and I think many parents that I've talked to, they simply just check it one side because it's old stuff, so
correct.
it will always be on new stuff. Yeah, yeah. So
Correct,
parents,
correct.
don't throw away your preferred SA2
Yeah, don't throw away.
I know some
Because I have
parents
some,
throw away.
yeah, I have some parents who throw away every year, right? End of every, okay, throw.
Next year,
Because
throw.
primary school subjects are all linked together. So you throw, then this year you realize that, hey, I need last year's notes actually. Yeah, so don't throw. Okay.
Parents, Chinese New Year is coming. I mean, if you're
Oh, yeah.
celebrating New Year, please don't throw everything away. Textbook keep first. After PSLE, then you can consider disposing them or passing them down to your cousins or
donate or correct. Please don't throw now. It's very important. Yeah. And okay, the next part, right? Next part, I will just just to quickly briefly go through this. Equip your child. Equip your child as in to equip your child with knowledge, to equip your child with different kind of alternatives to approach questions. Because a lot of times, I think for maybe P3 and 4, they will still need a bit of spoon feeding. That's normal. That's normal because they just came into science. To them, science is really quite tough. But when it comes to P5 and 6, you realize that the question set are more tricky and more twisty. They twist here and there. So you cannot just stick to one method and just take it as, oh, it always work. So I think this part is very important. You got to explore different methods with your child to tackle the questions. And sometimes the method that school teachers actually employ, it might not be very suitable for your child. And actually that's okay. I think that's fine. You can actually explore other methods as well, as long as it suits your child. So I'm just going to share one of my, the way that I actually approach certain questions. I'll just exit from here first.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
The parents, while teacher Kelly is working on her next part of the sharing, I know that CA1 is coming, the third assessments are coming, PSLE is coming. Any question when it comes to teaching your kids science at home, please ask them now so that we can address it on the spot. Because the reason why we're doing this is to support parents like you who teach. And actually, parents who teach, end up they teach everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
do.
they are concerned with everything. Yeah, so they want to know like how is my kid doing or how I can help my kid in any subject that they need help with. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is my own question actually. So
sure. Wow.
P6 forces. Yeah. So I think a lot of students maybe in P6 they just started on this topic. Yeah. So I just started with my students as well last week. So this was one of their questions. So for those parents who can still remember forces or maybe still just read with your own child, so maybe can read the question first. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I hope I passed.
Yeah. So we have two objects, P and Q, of the same mass and volume, drop from the same height. Yeah. So the first thing first, okay, how do we tackle this question? How we tackle every question actually? I always ask my students one thing: what topic is this from? But of course, because they know it's forces, right? So the next question will be, what subtopic is this from? So for under forces, we have 4 types of forces. Okay. So we have gravitational, magnetic, frictional, elastic spring force. So 4 types.
Okay.
So I will ask them, okay, what force is this? And how do you know? What are some of the clues? Because if you notice something, a lot of students, I realize they don't like to read the first sentence. They jump straight into the diagram. Their eyes always get attracted to the diagram and the graph, and that's it. So they don't read. And when they don't read, they don't...
For maths there.
It's normal, right? For them, even for math as well. Yeah, so I always emphasize, okay, you need to read the first question. There are always clues in the first sentence. So 2 objects, P and Q, same mass and volume, drop from the same height. Okay, so we see, okay, what is important? So I asked them, what is the one keyword over here? There's one keyword over here, actually, which is actually the word dropped. That will tell you what force we are focusing on. Okay, because we realize it's already the same mass, right?
Yeah.
Physicists who know this, they would know that same mass means the amount of gravitational force acting on it is the same.
Right.
Which means it has nothing to do with gravitational force in this question.
Is it
same as is correct.
Is it because of the formula MGH?
Yeah, correct. To put it simply, MGH is gravitational potential energy. I always tell them don't mix up the two.
Alright, you see, so I am the typical kid who got confused with everything. That's why I need Coach Kelle to make sure that I'm going towards the right direction.
That's why I say it's good for parents to read their textbook before they try to teach the students to read first, to recap a bit. Yeah, because I mean, for those who didn't do science for a long time, you will forget all this. It's normal. Yeah, it's normal. Because GF is actually equals to mass times grams. Okay, this one is not in the syllabus. Don't worry. Not in the syllabus. I mean, mass times gravitational acceleration. Not in the syllabus, so don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, just to let you all know. Because G is constant, you see. So, of course, mass is the only one that changes the amount of gravitational force acting on them, on Earth. Okay, this is a simplified for Earth only. Yeah. So they don't have to care about GF here already. Yeah. So I keep reminding my students, mass. Don't care about GF. Yeah. But the word drop is the one that is the keyword here. When something is dropping through air, I'm pretty sure, John, what are they experiencing?
Oh my God.
When something is dropping through air.
Parents, this is not planted to show how good I am in science. Because I'm going to give an answer that teacher Kelle is not looking for. Sorry, what do you ask again?
What are they experiencing? What kind of force are they experiencing when something is dropping through air? Keyword here is air. I give you a keyword already. It's air something.
Friction force with air?
Correct, which is what we call air
resistance.
Very good.
Hey, not bad.
Air resistance.
I can teach science.
Still remember? Not bad. I still remember. Yeah. So we talk. So once you establish, okay, this is air resistance, right? Then you can just focus on the points about air resistance already. Air resistance, there are two main points. Number one, it depends on surface area. So like the larger it is, that's why parachute, the canopy very big, right? So the person won't die when it plunges down. Yeah. So the bigger it is, the more air resistance. Yeah. So number one, surface area. Number two would be the streamline shape. The shape of the object. So in this case, it's very obvious the shape is the one which is different.
Okay.
Then we can focus on the shape. Oh, okay, it must be streamline shape. Something about streamline shape. Then to double check, you look at the next point. The time taken for each object to reach the ground is recorded, and the results are shown in the graph below. Okay, so we have two results, X and Y.
Yeah.
Which shows us how fast P or Q drop down.
Sure, yes.
So we know it must be streamline shape already.
Yes.
Right? So here, very obvious, this one is the more streamlined one, because it's pointing, the sharper part is the front part. Yeah. So I will always ask my students, okay, if let's say this is a revision question, if it's exams, of course, you don't have time to write down all this. There's no time. Everything must be inside your head already. Yeah. But let's say you are doing a revision, like especially for weaker students, revision, you don't just everything do in your head. It's good to write it down. So you see, visualize, you can put it back into your mind. Yeah. So you write down, okay, this is streamline, more streamline. Okay. Then if it's streamlined, what's the second thing it points to? Okay, if something is more streamlined, it means it will be experiencing less.
Is that for me?
Maybe less air resistance.
Now I'm so scared that you just pop out any question and then, hey John, it's for you.
Yeah, because this is what I do to my students. I'm like teaching a lesson now.
AR means your air resistance.
Yeah, correct. Less air resistance, correct. AR, air resistance.
So it sounds like you are bringing us through your thinking process with something that is out of all the primary school kids.
Correct.
It's so hard, oh my God.
Yeah, so they have to think, and some of PSLE, the time frame very, very short. They have to, that's why they have to be really prepared by then. Yeah, so, and of course, the final one is, since less air resistance, it means it will be faster.
Can you test me? Wait. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
oh,
never mind. I thought you wanted to test me. Okay. So I can show off a bit.
Yeah.
By getting wrong.
So that is the thought process. That's the thought process they're supposed to have. Yeah, and actually from the very first, after the first lesson, I actually already showed them this question. We already discussed this question right after the first question, when it's still fresh in their mind, when I just finished teaching them about air resistance and all that. Yeah, so this is what they write down first. And then we scroll down.
Yep.
Okay, let me just clear everything here first.
Sure. Okay, just before you clear that, I mean, it's okay. But I realized that no, it's fine. Yeah, because I realized that just to answer one question, first of all, it's so important to even know what is the keyword. And also to look at the similarities as well as the differences, and then also understand what do you actually need to identify, then you work towards the answer that they want. Well, I mean, it's
Correct.
a lot of cognition or cognitive loads in a kid. I mean, wow, to be able to do that
for a 12-year-old, right, is tough. Correct. But basically, that's why I always at the start of the year for P6s, I tell them by the 9th month when you sit for your PSLE, actually before that, prelims already, you should be 100% okay already to go in, and everything should just come out. I mean, I don't expect that for every single person, of course. If not, everybody will cannot be everybody get A star as well. Yeah, but I do expect it. At least you try your best towards it. Yeah, you have to remember the keywords. So link it up this way. Okay, topic, subtopic, keywords. Then from there, you will write down the thought process. That's for revision part. This is for revision. Okay, then we go down. Okay, so if we go down, you realize the question asks, which object P or Q can be represented by line X? Okay, so of course, the important thing to highlight here would be your line X, right? Because you have to understand what they're asking first, and also which object P or Q. Oh yeah, one thing about my teaching style is that I told my students, don't worry about highlighting, because sometimes I realize they don't like to highlight because they have to take an extra stationery and open, then so I told them, okay, if you really, because I have a few students who are really don't want the paper very clean one, no notes, no highlighting. So I told them, okay, never mind, you just circle. Even underline, circle, at least it pops up to you. I think that's important and it's useful enough already. So don't worry about beautiful highlight, different colors and all that. Some students like to do that. And so which object P or Q? So first thing, of course, you need to answer which object can be represented by line X. Line X will be your context, because that is exactly what the question is asking, the application part. And for my students, for those who are with me since a few years ago, they know this, that I have a method that I call OI and C. OIC.
OIC.
Yeah, OIC. OIC.
So O stands for clear for the kids, like, I see this, I see that, so I can do it.
Correct. Something like that. Yeah. So OIC. O stands for observation.
Okay.
I stands for inference. And the last one, C, stands for two C's.
Concept,
correct. And also your context.
A
lot of times people forget the context. Context is very important, because science, we don't expect you to just regurgitate the concept. Then if you don't link it back, number one, you might not realize that you went off track. Number two, you might not get the mark if you don't link it back, because teachers want to see the link. So I have these three. Observation. Okay, I always tell my students one very easy example. Okay, when I yawn, you see that I yawn. That's your observation. Okay. Inference. Okay, I might be very tired, because that you infer means to show, right? So the yawning shows that I'm tired. Concept. What's the concept of being tired? Maybe because the last night I had a late night, I didn't sleep well. Okay. For example, then therefore it makes me tired. So this is basically how you should tackle questions as well. So you observe what's happening first. From the observation, what can you tell? Then from there, you'll be able to apply it to the concept and the context. So in this case, our observation from the something about observation, it can be in any form. It can be a table form, it can be the diagram, it can be the graph, it can be even words as well. So anything that you're able to observe from the question. Observation is always copied from the question. Don't need to think of something else. So observation in this case would be the P is more streamlined, right? That's observation, because that's what you see. What does it show you? If something is more streamlined and falling, it will experience less AR, less air resistance as it is dropped.
Hey, just curious, if someone put like experience less friction in the air,
Oh, can. Okay, air resistance. The resistance itself is actually not needed as a keyword. You can say friction between the object and the air. Can. That's fine as well. Yeah, that's fine as well. Then the concept and context will be, okay, so less air resistance. The concept of having less air resistance is that something is going to move faster, right? So you can say that you will drop faster. And this is the part a lot of students miss out. Then they just full stop here and expect that the teacher link it back for them that, oh, you know, line X is the one that drops faster, like that shows that drop faster.
Oh.
Yeah, so you have to link it back like as shown by line X, something like that. So always link it back to the question. That's the context part. Yeah, so this is my method. And I always tell my students, new students, whenever I introduce this method to them, I always tell them, okay, you don't have to use my method, of course, because if you don't feel comfortable with this method, I cannot force you to use it, because I mean, it's going to be very tough for you as well. Yeah, so don't worry. Because a lot of times, I think, I'm not sure for John, if your girl actually has this method from school. A lot of schools use CER, claim, evidence, and reasoning. So claim is like object P. Evidence is like talking about the streamline and all that. Then the reasoning is saying that it experienced more air resistance. So you see that actually the final destination is the same. It's just that different, yeah. So I always tell them, you know, if you want to use your CER, go ahead and do it. If you want to use mine, go ahead and do it as well. But I always tell them something, please don't use the method that will always cause you to have mistakes. Because some students are a bit stubborn. They don't want to try any new method. They just think that their method is the best. Then they just make the same mistakes over and over. Yeah, so this is why I tell them, it's okay. It doesn't matter if you don't want to use mine, you don't want to use your teachers. But whatever method you choose, you have to make sure that it's not something that you always make mistakes with, because there's no point. So you must choose a new method to do things. Yeah, so I think by giving them different alternatives, you're actually giving them a choice, and they feel empowered as well, that, oh, they can actually choose something that they're comfortable with. Yeah, because I do have some students, they bring their homework to me. Then it's CER, you see. Then they have no idea what CER. They just cannot understand CER. But when I break it down to them this way, they prefer this, so they use this. So for me, I think we shouldn't just let them stick to a template, like, wow, everything must follow this template. Let them have a chance to explore, to see what fits them. I think, yeah, that part is important. And yeah, so this is the one of the methods. And let me clear this.
Yeah,
okay.
And right on what you said, I think what you're saying, it sounds like how much does the parents really understand the strength and weakness of a kid, and also whether the parents know exactly what is the preferred learning style of children. Okay, because there are some kids who are the higher achievers, they are able to understand the CER means OIC. But there are some kids, I think, because in my experience, I mean, there are some kids who they are told like, hey, this is the only way, and you either do it or you don't. Yeah, so I think as parents, we still need to take on the responsibility to walk through the journey with our kid, and then to see how else we can definitely make it simpler for them to learn, or whether this is something that they prefer, or we parents can further simplify for them. I mean, this is the role as a parent, right? We just want to make it things easier for our kids.
Correct. I very truly believe in the Chinese term 因材施教. So it means like it means like you teach according to the child's talents, or like strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, because of their 才, which is talent, then you use your different methods to teach them. Because not every child is able to, I mean, obviously not every method fits every child. Yeah, so I think it's important to let them explore as well. Then they feel comfortable. If not, when they feel that they need to do a certain way and they don't feel comfortable, they wouldn't be able to learn properly in that sense. That's what I feel. Yeah. So usually I'll find out like the strengths and weaknesses and use different methods to help the child to understand what the questions are talking about. Yeah. Okay, let me just stop.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Yes.
Done already.
No, yeah, done with that part.
Oh, okay. This reminded me of sharing from another parent. And I think it definitely resonates with what I believe in.
Mm.
When a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environments in which it grows, not the flower. Yeah. So what
True.
I think how I interpret from here is when a child doesn't benefit from this method, I think we have to really explore and see, is it part of the method that the child doesn't understand, or is it everything, or is it the child prefers something more more challenging or more complicated or simpler.
Mm.
Yeah. So, but I think it's more like tuning into the kid and really spending time with the kid to know what he wants.
True. And just to quickly, like maybe just go through, because I know we are running a bit short already.
I
Yeah.
think we have about 10 minutes.
Yeah, maybe I'll just like quickly go through. Yeah, so sometimes when you're nearer to exams, you can also deal with like trying to help them to understand which of the basic concepts that they are still lacking confidence in.
Yeah.
So usually for my P5 and 6, right, I will, towards the exams, I'll give them something like that, basic concepts. So the whole thing is just basic concepts, like P6, basic concepts. And you give them upper block. For this one, it's upper block, so P5 and P6 topics. Yeah. Things like number 1, what is a cell? This is like the super duper easy question. So I tell them, okay, you need to know all this. If you don't know all this, right, you have to go back to basics already. It means you are lacking in that area. So all these are nothing application, no difficult. Yeah, basically nothing difficult. All this can be answered very, very easily. Like, okay, what are the differences between boiling and evaporation, things like that. So they have to know all this. Yeah, so I'll make them sit there half an hour, work through this. And after which we go through, then from there I told them, okay, you have to look at the ones you have mistakes in. This is the parts where you need to focus on. You have to go back and reread your notes one more time, look at your textbook one more time, at least get yourself familiarized with the basic concepts. Because cannot be everybody get it correct and like 1 mark, you just lose it. It's very, very wasted. Yeah, so this is just nearer to exams. And okay, back to this one.
Yeah, actually that's really good because I think it's like going back to the textbook and it's a quick checklist to see what your child knows and what your child doesn't know. Because if I think for most kids, I mean for my own kids, when I ask them, hey, do you know or not? Do you learn or not? They say yes. But sometimes when I test them again, then we realize the knowledge gaps. Yeah. So by saying it's really hard. So parents, you need to have checklists like this to really zoom in to know exactly what your child doesn't know. So when you mark it wrong, or when the child knows that it's wrong, then there's something that you need to work on, and you have something that is very like is evident.
True, correct. Because a lot of times you ask them, any questions? They'll say no. No. Then when you ask them the question, they I don't know. Yeah, so they don't know what they don't know. So you need to make them find out what they don't know. Yeah. Okay, this one is just a brief one. Okay, during exams, what happened? I think this one is probably shared by a lot of science teachers already. Should be because this is just the basics. Yeah. So exams itself for science for all P3 to P6, right? Okay, so we have section A and B. So section A is 56%, section B is 48%. Section A is just all MCQ, each question 2 marks, so 28 questions. Yeah. So this one, you must score as high as possible. In fact, I always tell them, score full marks if possible, please, because it's totally possible. It's really possible to score full marks. And time allocation wise, because it's a 28 questions. So usually I tell them, okay, guys, average, as far as possible, try to aim for 1 minute for one question. Because you have instances with questions which only takes 2 seconds for you to get the answer. Instances whereby you need 3 minutes to get the answer. So that 1 minute per question kind of even out. And you give yourself maybe about 30, usually I tell them about 35 minutes, you need to finish this. Maximum 40 minutes, you have to complete this already. And this will include shading as well. Yeah, because a lot of students like to leave the shading to the end, and that one a bit risky because either they forget or they no time to do it. Yeah, so I tell them make sure it includes the shading as well. Yeah, and section B is
one. There are times that I hear stories like the child missed one and end up the bag all wrong.
Oh yeah, horrible, very horrible mistake.
It's not that he doesn't know. It's just that for example, parents are like 1 to 5, right? He missed out 4, so he put the answer for 5 and 4. So the rest all wrong lah.
Yeah. Especially when they do the mistake at the very start. that everything wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So checking, I think, very important as well when it comes to, this is like just technical, nothing to do with how well you know your questions. Yeah, correct. Okay, then section B is your why did I say 48%? Sorry, 44%. I failed my math. Sorry, 44%. Because 100%, I'm going to find 48, 44%. Okay, so 44 marks. Yeah. Okay. So this one is about 55 to 1. Lucky I'm not teaching math, Very
You can
tulian.
say that parents, this is to test you.
Yeah, to spot the mistake. Okay, so this one about maybe 1 hour, about 1 hour to finish. About 55 minutes to 1 hour. Usually this one I'll tell my kids, okay, same thing, you take it as 1 mark 1 minute, somewhere around there. Because same thing, you need some buffering on. You tell them 1 mark 1 minute, sometimes 1 mark they spend 2 minutes, and sometimes 1 mark they spend 2 seconds. So it really depends. And if you add up everything, checking and buffering, that leaves you about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, you will see that actually I don't give a lot of time for checking, because I always tell my students, if you make a mistake at the very start, especially when it comes to MCQ, to you is the correct answer already. So you check also no use. When you go back and look at it again, very seldom you'll be able to pick it up one more time, because to you it's already fixed in your head that this is the way it is already. Yeah, so I told them always from the start, don't even give yourself a chance to make the mistake. Do your highlighting, do your circling. Because if you notice some of the students' paper, again, very clean one, the whole paper very, very clean, only has the number 1, 2, 3, 4. So I told them at the very start, you have to do it correctly already. Checking is to make sure that you don't miss question. Checking is to make sure that you complete every question that you forget you think is too hard. This kind of checking, not for you to redo the question one more time, like re-look at the question because you realize that, oh, I read one thing wrong. Then the whole thing, you might need to spend like 2-3 minutes just for one question. There's not enough time to check every single question this way. So I think at the start is important. And importantly, I think this one a lot of students don't do actually. When you get the paper, when they say you can open the paper, you flip through it very fast one time, entire paper, because you will see that there are a lot of mixed difficulty questions. Doesn't mean like it gets harder and harder and harder. So a lot of students, what they tend to do is when they go to especially OEQ, which is section B, they will get stuck in the middle. And to them, some students, they don't want to move on until they write something, because teachers always tell them must write something. Yeah, so they don't want to move on. But they didn't realize that towards the end, the questions behind might be very simple. You can get like 5 marks. Then you go and because of 1 mark question, waste that 5 marks behind. Yeah, so I think it's important to look at the difficulties like, oh, when I flip through, I realize that, oh, the questions behind I can do. So when I'm stuck in the middle, at least I throw that question aside first, I move on first. So that is important. And also you sometimes you see a relationship between questions like section A, oh, maybe question 2 is related to your section B question 34, for example. Then you can relate back because some of the information might be useful in the MCQ to be used in your OEQ. Yeah, so I think this is something very important that some students don't really do. And just after the exams, just to quickly break down the mistakes, because a lot of parents, I think, when they after exams or students as well, they look at the marks only. They don't break down their own mistakes. They don't learn so much. Yeah, they just copy answers from corrections from school and they just chuck it aside. So I think breaking down is important. Later, I'll just show a short one to short analysis to show how to analyze the paper. So there are these few main types of mistakes. Can be careless, can be time management, can be concepts, can be lack of keywords. Every mistake has its own key to unlock the next stage where you don't make this mistake again. So just now I shared about carelessness is when they don't read. Reading is so important, but sometimes they don't do that. They don't circle, they don't underline, they don't highlight. So carelessness must be tackled from the very root of how their attitude is, how they practice the paper, how they do a paper. Time management, I shared already. Conceptual is you have to go back to basics. Whenever there's a concept issue, really have to go back to basics already. Go to the topic where you get it wrong. Look at where you get it wrong. For example, evaporation, you forgot to write, or maybe condensation. You instead of lose heat, you write gain heat, for example. This is a very, very basic thing that you shouldn't get wrong. Yeah, then you have to go back to your textbook, to your notes to get it sorted out. Then, of course, lack of keywords. Science, we look out for keywords and key phrases. So lack of keywords and phrases, they have to, same thing, go to point number 3, which is a conceptual part. When they're doing their revision, they have to write down, for example, evaporation. Okay, what are the keywords? something gain heat and evaporate. So if you don't gain heat, you cannot just say evaporate, for example. Yeah, so they have to write it down themselves when they come across this kind of questions. Yeah. And actions taken based on strengths and weaknesses. If you have weaker students and your kid is slightly weaker, you should be focusing on MCQ, because as I mentioned, 56%. If you're able to score really well in your 56%, you don't have to worry so much about the back already. Yeah, so that one is very important about science. I think this is one of the good thing about science is that you can really score very high in MCQ. And even if your OEQ is not very well, yeah. And weaker students tend to need to focus on topical revision instead of just churning paper. I mentioned this already, don't churn paper, go back to your own mistakes. Stronger students, they should do more school papers, increase the exposure of questions. So if they meet a weird question in the PSLE, they don't get so stressed because they might have seen something similar before. Then they can think in that direction. How did I do this question the previous time? Okay.
Sorry, can you just give us like more ways to check? So for example, how do I know that my child is in the category of weaker students, and how do I know how is
so stronger versus weaker? Okay, it depends. So if let's say your child, right, all along has been doing like maybe 36-ish for MCQ, for example, maybe 36-ish for MCQ, and then the OEQ is like 36 is upon 56, right? So 20 marks missing. The OEQ is maybe about, if you're a 36 student, your OEQ highly likely about maybe 20 is probably the maximum you can get. Yeah. So for students,
and I know that you have a last slide with a contact, but is it possible that you can actually write down, like, for the weaker kids, what is the mark range? Because I think it's quite hard even for me to visualize.
To gauge, right? Yeah.
Okay,
so for example, like let's say
great. This is very helpful.
So like maybe let's say weaker, just a ballpark lah, not.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah. So maybe somewhere. So maybe MCQ. Around maybe about 30-ish or below. 30-ish or below.
This is
which means upon 56.
6 marks.
This is upon 56. Yeah. And their OE might be OEQ. Usually if you're about 36, right, your OEQ will be about highest 20-ish, about 20-ish.
Out of 40 plus.
About upon 44.
So it sounds like they got half of each section right. I mean, it's
something like that.
Yeah, because what actually made me realize is I can sense similar trend happening in math as well. I mean, for weaker kids, they get half of paper 1 correct, they get half of paper 2 correct. So end up they just pass, no?
Correct, exactly. So about 50 plus, right? Correct. Yeah. So for students like that, right? If you want to spread them too much to cover both MCQ and OEQ, especially if it's a short runway, there's no time to do so. So I told them to, number 1, focus on the topics that you know you will do well for OEQ, for the writing one. Yeah, so at least you can get those marks. But in terms of MCQ, you have to push yourself to the next range, which is maybe about high 40, try to get a high 40. Because this 30 plus, right, it cannot be all conceptual mistakes. So like this 20 marks missing cannot be all conceptual mistakes. It can be sometimes carelessness. It can be sometimes because they forget a certain concept. Not that they don't know, but they forget a certain concept. So this kind of marks can be gotten back. So at least that can push them up to about 40-ish, high 40s. So at least you can secure the next tier. Yeah, because I do have students, last time I did have students like that. So I will analyze the paper together with them saying, this one you shouldn't get it wrong. This one is really careless. This one is concepts. Concepts, then you must go and read one more time. You must go and redo the topical questions one more time. Yeah, things like that. So I think that helps them to visually see, this is how many marks I must get more to get to the next tier, to help to push myself up by one more tier, for example. Yeah.
Yep.
Then just now, John, I was saying just quick one on the hang on, let me just get.
Yeah, maybe while you are trying to sort things out, let me just share the parents. I think there's what I'm trying to say here is there's a lot of things that you can do at home. Like for example, I can just share. I'm not a science expert. I'm not a science expert here. You are. Yeah. Actually, what my girl did for science revision is she did her own mind mapping. Yeah. So when the exam comes, she just read her own mind map and helps her to retain what she has learned. I mean, parents,
Right.
if this is useful for you and your child loves to doodle or draw, this will be one of the best ways for your child to enjoy the learning science.
Because I think, John, you will agree with me that the kids are very visual learners. Yeah. Most kids are visual learners. So I do have people telling me, I ask them, how do you revise? What is a revision plan? Oh, I read. They just take out their notes, take out their past mistakes. I read. Then I told them, you read no use. You need to be writing, because when you're writing, when you're drawing something, it registers in your brain. Yeah, I think that part is very important, to be willing to put in the extra step of writing it down or to draw it out. Yeah. To my map. Okay, so this is for my exam analysis. So let's say after a major paper, CA1, SA1, whatever paper, it's good to, because at 20 questions in OEQ is 29 onwards. So because after MCQ is 28, right? Number 28, so 29 onwards. So I will have this all the way until 42 questions, or sometimes some schools 40, 41 questions. Yeah. So from here, you look at the question, you analyze, okay, what topic forces? Why am I wrong? Okay, maybe totally wrong concept. If it's totally wrong concept, especially put a star next to it. It means if it's completely wrong concept, you have to go back to the basics. But if it's, let's say, for example, time management, don't have time to finish. Okay, then I got to work on seeing where I can get this extra time. Why didn't I manage to finish this question? Is there something else I can do? So I think this is more of a reflection for the student, to let them see on paper that, oh, you know, I didn't do well, not because I am lousy. I didn't do well because there are really tangible steps that I can take to improve. Yeah, to map it out for them, so that they know what's wrong and which area that they need to work on. Yeah, just a basic exam analysis for them. Yeah.
And I guess it's really to put things into the right context for the kids. I mean, not all kids who did well, not all kids who did poorly for math or science are poor in math or science. Sometimes they just didn't study.
Correct. That's why I say it's not that they don't know the concept, but sometimes they forget because they never study. Yeah.
Yeah. Or at times, I mean, to be fair to the kids, there are some of them who face exam anxiety.
Yes.
So end up they black out. And I think there are some kids who told me that they face some extent of it, and they don't dare to share with their parents because they are afraid that they'll be scolded.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it pains. I mean, it really pains my heart to hear all these things happening in such a young child's life.
True. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Why I hesitated now is because is actually we have overshot by but I think there's a parent who has asked one question. Okay, let's take on the question first. Yeah. I will put in the chat box. Give me a minute.
Sure.
Okay. Take your time to read it and.
Oh, how important are keywords? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, my Mona. Yeah.
Okay, how important are keywords to the application towards booklet B, which is section B, right? The OEQ part. Okay. Very important. Very important. But the thing about keywords is a lot of people have this misconception that, oh, as long as I put keywords in, right, I will get the mark. Because they have this misconception that examiners are only looking for keywords. That's not true. Because just as I mentioned, there is something called context as well. Which means after writing the keyword, if you don't link it back to the question, especially nowadays, a lot of questions are set based on application. If you don't link it back to the question, there won't be marks given as well. Depends on what is the mark allocation, of course. For science, there's no half mark marking. We don't have half mark marking for for PSLE anymore, which means it's 0, 1, or 2. And that's why I always tell my students, 1 mark question, you all cannot get wrong, nothing wrong, you know, because 1 mark, that's it, 0. Just one word, keyword missing, 0. Yeah, so I think that is very important for them to understand that though keywords are important, 100% important, but at the same time, please do to encourage your student, your child to always link it back to the question. The context is always very important. Yeah.
Yeah. So back to Mommy, my Mona. Hope teacher Kelly has answered your question. Okay, let me just add in my 2 cents. I started off teaching my eldest science when she's primary 3. I admit that it's not easy. Yeah, so along the way, I realized that while keywords are important, putting them in the right structure, right context, in the right way, right order that the marker wants is very important, because I think it goes back to working with those teachers who are very experienced in marking. Yeah, because it's not just throwing a bunch of keywords and see what sticks are. There's no way the teacher will give you the marks. You must give them what they want. So there's a thing that I think heard from a friend, which is you can't just answer the question. You must answer to capital T, capital O, answer to the question. Don't anyhow whack. This is what I learned from my friend.
Correct. That's true. Very true. Yeah.
All right. I think we have come to the end of the sharing. Would you be able to share one key takeaway for parents? I think would you be able to share also like what is one important tip, especially now we are actually reaching the end of January and the tests are coming in. I mean, it's scary, right? I thought we just celebrated New Year Eve, New Year's Day.
Very fast.
So what do you recommend? Maybe you can share like P3 to 5 as well as primary 6, because I think different groups of kids.
Okay, key takeaway would be, of course, I think ultimately very important, be involved. Because if you don't know what your kid is doing, you cannot help your kid. I mean, I think, John, that's how you feel. That's why we have this platform, right? Because you want to help the parents, help the kids. Because I think it's very important to know your child very well in terms of what they're weak at, what they're strong at, encourage them for their strengths and help them in their weakness. So be involved, very important. Look at their work, look at their mistakes, discuss with them. Yeah, get them involved as well. Don't just plan out everything for them. Yeah, get them involved. And when it comes to revision, let's say for the tests which are coming up, they barely started school actually, but it's very fast. Yeah, it's very, very fast. Maybe I can share for like P6 P6 first. P6, some schools, most schools actually, I think will have a mini CA1 to kind of touch base for them. Yeah, so I think at this moment, right, revision is very important because for now, a lot of schools are barely starting for new topics. So there's nothing much they can do for new topics at this moment. So they need to go back to their 3, 4, 5 revision. Because if you notice for science, everything is linked together. Whatever we learned in P6 was touched on in P3, for example. Like magnetic force was touched on in magnets, which is in P3. Yeah, so if you are able to set a firm foundation, you shouldn't have any problem tackling the future topics. That's for P6 revision. Yeah, so start with actually you should be halfway through the revision already, not start lah. It's like continue with your revision. Yeah, that's what.
When you say must be halfway through, I think this will be what shocked my parents, because I think even for myself, it's like, oh, I thought this is our honeymoon period.
I think very fast. Because by right, I always tell my students, P5, you need to do revision already. In P5 holidays, that is the last, I told them that is the last 6-week timing, for you to properly use. Yeah, so actually in December holidays, you should have already started with your revision already. Yeah, that's for P6. P3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, actually not many of them have CA1, but maybe weighted assessment. So weighted assessment usually is the new topic. Yeah, so I think about new topic is probably, by now, all the students should have known what topics they are doing already. The first topic to start with. So be involved. Look at your child's, maybe read in advance first to understand what your child is going to be going through. Look at the questions, because I think most of you will have assessments books and all that. Look at what kind of questions will be coming out. Work them together with your child. Discuss, maybe not doing work because they barely started. Yeah, but maybe do some discussion with them. Oh, how do you feel about this? What did your teacher teach about this? Get them to understand that you are involved as well. Get them to think as well. Yeah, so when it comes to revision, when it really starts, when they finish the topic, I think the momentum is there. So important, I think, to kickstart already. Don't always wait until like 2 weeks or 1 week before the exams before you start. You must always have the momentum there. Yeah.
Yeah, and parents, if you have just heard what Teacher Kelle has said, and if you have not started anything at all, don't freak out. start now
Yeah.
or start tomorrow?
Yes,
I mean,
can start now. Yes, I mean
Okay.
tomorrow. We just started 2 weeks only, so don't worry so much. It's just ideally speaking, yeah. But don't worry, it's never too late. It's really never too late. Don't just I'm too late, I give up. Yeah, it's never too late. You can always kickstart tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes. Don't ask your child to do until like 11 a.m. You heard from this space like, must start now.
No, don't worry. Give your child enough sleep.
Yeah, I think at the same time, what I learned from you for today's sharing is also to really plan the revision. And I mean, there are so much things that we parents can do to help our kids. But I think first of all is to plan ahead and to plan well.
Yes.
Don't just revise for the sake of revising.
Mm.
There's OEQ, there's MCQ. You can go back to the basic concept first, and then see whether what your child know and what your child doesn't know. Yeah, so that will really help.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Parents. Okay. If you want to contact Teacher Kelly, where can they get you?
Hang on, just quick one.
Yeah.
Here, over here. So a few things, you can just WhatsApp me. My email is there, my website is there as well. Yeah.
Okay, let me just share with the parents. Okay, a disclaimer. I don't get anything out of this. Because some parents they WhatsApp me, hey John, now your platform become an advertising platform. Why? Where's your mission? Parents, my mission has grown to support parents who teach like me. And you realize that at the end of the day, we parents who teach are actually involved in almost every part of our child's life. So why I'm doing this Facebook Live is because I want to bring like-minded educators up to share with you. So I don't get anything out of it. Yeah, true or not?
True, very true, 100% true.
Yeah. And I think what really like benefited me in a sense of to hear from educators who are not just there to teach, but their parents as well, just like you and primary school going kids. Yeah, so I think like yourself and like me, we really can empathize with working moms or dads. Yeah, because it's not just throwing any techniques to parents, because we know that parents' bandwidth is also limited as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. So parents, you take away what works for you. There's no need to take on everything that we said. Just apply what works for you. And it may work well today, it may not work well tomorrow, but it may work well the next day. So you have to be flexible and be open to all these techniques. All right. Okay. Great. Okay, we have Vincent Tan giving a thumbs up, Clara Chia giving a thumbs up, and what do you call this? Like bye bye. Sorry, what?
Thank you. Thanks, parents.
Okay. Now you can stop sharing screen because I always have one last question for all my guests. You okay with it?
Can, of course.
Yeah, even if you're not okay, I will ask also.
Yes, I know.
Okay. Okay. Right now, I think primary sixers, though PSLE is not here yet, but you'll be here. So I think even gradually they'll feel the tension. Yeah.
Correct.
So if I may invite you to walk down the memory lane, and I know that you are very young, so you walk down the memory lane to your younger self, to your younger self, and then you meet the 12-year-old Kelly. Yeah. Okay. She's so close to you that you can almost touch her, and she's looking at you right into the eyes. What will you tell your 12-year-old self?
Okay. I think for it's a personal experience. So for me, I will tell my 12-year-old self, don't just do your best and not have any regrets. Because I didn't, honestly, to be very honest, I wasn't a very, very, very studious student. Yeah, I was. I think my mom had quite a headache with me. When I was in primary school. You can, if she's watching, I don't know. She knows that. Yeah. So, I mean, I managed to still score pretty okay to get into my a good school for me. But I know that I could have pushed myself a little more. So I honestly have a little tinge of regret. Not because I want to score like, 280 or something, but because I know that I can be pushed even further. Yeah, so that's what I always share with my students as well. It's okay because everybody has their own limitation. I'm not asking everyone to get like 270, 280, because everyone, of course, have their own limitation. But if you're able to push yourself to your very best, you put in your very best to it, no regrets. Most importantly, no regrets. Because I always share with them my story, especially for those who are not very motivated. I tell them, last time I also not very motivated. Yeah, very relaxed, very laid back on. Yeah, so ultimately I realized, hey, actually I could have done slightly better. I feel better about myself. It's more of a self, you just feel better lah. It's not like you're comparing with other people. Yeah, so I think ultimately, to all P6s as well, ultimately no regrets. Just do your best, and as long as you can answer to yourself, most important is answer to yourself. You are your own person. You answer to yourself. Then I think that's fine. Yeah.
Cool. And allow me to push a bit.
Okay.
What will you tell your 12-year-old self about PSLE?
About PSLE, yeah. Wow. Actually, I don't remember. That's the thing, That's a key thing. I don't remember what was written, what was asked and all that. So I think ultimately you only remember where it brought you to.
Okay.
That's why I think it's important to always think where you want it to bring you to.
Okay.
So as long as you work towards that aim, that's all that matters. PSLE itself, the papers and all that, it's not something you can ask anybody, any adults. Nobody will remember what was asked. Nobody will remember if it's hard or easy, or like, yeah, I don't remember anything about PSLE to be honest. I only remember brought me to my secondary school. That's all. That's all I remember. Yeah. So ultimately, don't worry. It's not it can never be the end. It's definitely, it's the first step. It's literally the first step. And many people have many different paths that lead them to where they want to go to eventually.
Yep.
Yeah, so PSLE it's not just one straight path for everybody. Everybody has their own path to follow. Yeah, so just don't treat PSLE as your final, the do what do they call it, do all and all or something like that. I mean, it's not the ultimate it's not the ultimate destination. Yeah. Correct.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Just for the kids, we are not saying don't study.
Yes. No. It's no regrets. So do your best. Yeah. So study to your fullest potential.
Yeah, we must always put a disclaimer there, because
Correct.
some listeners that they may listen to the wrong
things that they want to listen.
Okay, parents, I think what we parents can do for our kids, I mean, if you share similar values like me and Kelle, is to help them to look beyond the grades.
Correct, definitely. Enjoy whatever time you have with them. I think that's very important. This is their last year before they become real teenagers, Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Kelle. Don't go off first. Thanks so much for sharing.
No problem. Okay.
Yep. For parents who are still here with us, thanks so much for listening. And if you love this sharing and you think that it can benefit you down the road, just share the post, and then the post will be at your Facebook wall, so you can refer to it anytime you want. Yeah. Okay. Bye bye. Good night, everyone.
Bye. Good night. Enjoy your week.
Today's Monday, right? Nice Monday.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. Good night. Okay. Don't go off first. Okay.
Okay. Sure.